So, the OnePlus 6 is almost 5 months old now, and the 6T is soon to be released. So is the OnePlus 5T worth buying in 2018? Let's find out. So, OnePlus are known for their budget devices with flagship specs, and the 5T is no exception. This phone costs just £449 here in the UK for the base model, which gets you 64GB of storage and 6GB of RAM, or for an extra £50 you can double the storage and get 8GB of RAM. As you can probably imagine with those specs, the performance is no slouch with the 5T, and it can breeze through high graphic games like Asphalt 9 and PUBG with ease. Even with last year's Snapdragon 835 processor, it still handles tasks like a champ, and going through the system feels snappy with minimal hiccups. This is thanks to it running Android 8.1 Oreo with plans for Android Pie soon, as well as its own Oxygen OS, which has minimal bloatware, allowing for a smoother experience. The OnePlus 5T comes with a dual camera system consisting of a 16MP primary sensor and a 20MP secondary sensor to help with those awesome portrait mode shots. Both cameras have an aperture of f1.7 and electronic image stabilization. On the front is a 16MP f2.0 front-facing camera for those of you who love to take selfies. OnePlus have always opted for a high megapixel count on the front-facing camera, while the likes of Samsung and Apple have gone for lower. But as a trade-off to having high megapixels, we lose details in the highlights and the dynamic range isn't great. Outdoor photos with the 5T look great. They have good dynamic range, the details are good, and it can produce some sharp, rich photos that are definitely Instagram worthy. Taking it into low light is where you can really see this camera struggle. Even though it has dual f1.7 aperture lenses, due to the lack of optical image stabilization, photos can turn out blurry and can have some noticeable grain. The 5T caps out at 4K 30 frames a second on the rear facing camera and 1080p 30 frames a second on the front facing camera. Video is smooth with its gyro electronic image stabilization, but it doesn't compare to the optical image stabilization of the S9 Plus. The dynamic range isn't great as some areas can be overexposed, but overall video quality is decent. With phone batteries getting bigger nowadays, the 5T's 3300 mAh battery doesn't sound like much, but the battery life is actually pretty good. I was getting a screen on time of around the 5-hour mark, which is pretty good. This is thanks to the lack of much bloatware in the system, the AMOLED display, and the Full HD Plus resolution. Of course, this all depends on how heavy your usage is, but even if you find yourself on a low charge, OnePlus's dash charge can get you around 60% in just 30 minutes, even while continuing to browse the web or even game. 2018 seems to be the year for the notches, and you'll be happy to hear that the 5T doesn't follow that trend, mainly due to it being released last year. It has a 6.01-inch Full HD Plus AMOLED display, and despite the resolution, this is one of the best panels I've seen on a smartphone. Comparing it with my Galaxy S9 Plus, which is WQHD Plus, you can barely even tell the difference. Unless you intend to use your phone for mobile VR, then having a 1080p Plus display isn't a bad thing. Plus you get the added benefits of a better battery life. Colours are vibrant and the blacks are deep thanks to the optic AMOLED panel. The brightness isn't great, so if you're indoors it's absolutely fine, but if you're outdoors you'll find yourself squinting in the bright sunlight. So, the OnePlus 5T is a beast of a phone, even in 2018. And if you're a real power user, this phone is definitely for you. The few drawbacks this device has isn't really a huge deal. However, due to the OnePlus 6T being released for just £499, I think if you can save up that little bit extra and get the 6T, then I would recommend it. But you will be losing out on the beloved headphone jack. If you like this video, then give it a like, and if you disliked it, give it a dislike. And let me know why in the comments, and I'll do my best to respond. If you're new, I'd really appreciate it if you could smash that subscribe button. This is Callum from True Tech Reviews, and I'll catch you in my next video.